at 0 degrees or 360, because essentially if you make a 360 turn, it's also going to be pointing in the upwards direction. And then we can clearly see that we have 90 degrees, it's going to the right. We have 180 degrees, which is pointing down, and 270 degrees, which is pointing to the left. We can also do something weird. Rather than saying 270 degrees, we can actually say, if we think about 360 degrees, we can say minus 90, because if I subtract 90 degrees from 360 degrees, I'm actually going in this direction and I'm facing to the left. So minus 90 actually also ends up facing to the left. But don't worry too much about it. The only thing that we're really interested in now is essentially that you guys need to understand that if I'm facing up with 0, to the right 90, down is 180, and to the left is 70. So obviously if you want to face 45 degrees, it will be somewhere right in the middle between 0 and 90 degrees. In this case over here, it's something like minus 45 degrees will be facing over here. Okay, so let's just quickly go back to this little sprite and we can see exactly how this relates to position. Okay, so we have here pointing in direction 90. So if I click on this, it's pointing in the 90 direction, but we can also change the direction to point in 0, which is up. Click on it, it's going to face up. 180 from yesterday, remember if I click this, it's going to face down. 270 is click on it, it's going to face to the left. And if I want to go back up again, I can either say 360 or I can say 0. Both of them are pointing in the upwards direction. And just to show you quickly, if I say minus 90, right, it's actually going to face to the left because it takes 360 degrees and it subtracts 90 from it. So then it's going to face in the left direction. So you can either say 270 or you can say minus 90. But I think for the purposes of what we're going to do, the 270 should probably make more sense than minus 90 degrees because that's just a bit weird at this point in time. Then there's something else that we need to look at. So we can essentially, the direction that your sprite is pointing towards, that is the direction that it will be walking. So if I point in direction 30 degrees, see it turns 30 degrees. And then if I click on steps, it basically moves in the direction that I'm pointing. Or I can move to position 180, which is down, click on it, and then I can click on move, and we'll move my sprite down. One of the big annoyances for me is always to, after I've moved my sprite, is to basically get it back to the way it was. So putting it back in the middle of the screen and making sure that it's facing in 90 degrees. So yesterday I showed you how you can do that. So we can click on events. We can make a little shortcut for that. We can say when the spacebar is pressed, we're always going to point in direction 90. So I'm going to point the direction to the right. And also we need to move the little sprite to position to the center of the screen. So x is equal to 0. And the question is, what time did you start? I literally started 3 minutes ago, I think. So you didn't miss much. And if I click on Y and 0, that will move me to the center of the screen. So when I press spacebar, we see that it lines my little sprite back to where it was. So if I can move the sprite up here, I press spacebar, it will move back to where I want it to be. Now there's something weird about this. I'm going to show this to you quickly. Some of the sprites, because this one is cool because it's already facing in the direction that it's looking at. So it's looking to the right. So actually its orientation is already showing it's looking to 90 degrees. But some of these sprites behave a little bit differently. So for example, if I go to transportation, let's maybe take this little spaceship here and click OK. I'm just going to delete this little beetle for now, or maybe I'm just going to hide it. So this spaceship, you would think that it's actually, because it's looking up, you will think that if I press move 10 steps, it's actually going to go up. But it's not going to, it's actually going to move to the right. Okay, and that's because its direction that it's looking at the moment is 90 degrees. And for me, that's really annoying because it looks as though it's looking up. So why is it going to the right? But the reason is because this sprite, technically speaking, this sprite probably should have been rotated. So this point up here should have been pointing to the right. But there's luckily a way for us to fix that. Okay, so we can go to this little sprite here, and I can click on costumes, and then we can see that we have this little sprite over here, and we can actually make changes to it here. So I can just click on it, and you see that if I move the mouse to the top, it becomes a little circle with an arrow appears, and that basically means that I'm able to rotate this particular sprite. So I can click on it, and I can rotate the sprite so that it's aligned. So maybe over there is 90 degrees. So that looks like it's facing in the right direction. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. Right, so if I go back to my scripts, and if I now move 10 steps, you can actually see that it is now facing in the direction that actually makes sense. So just be aware of that. Some of the sprites that you see are actually already facing in 90 degrees. All of them are facing 90 degrees. It's just a little bit weird because sometimes, like this little crab here, for example, if I just say move 10 steps, it's actually going to move to the right. So if you want this crab to actually move in the direction that it's facing, you need to go back here, click on the sprite, click on its costume, and actually do the rotation of the sprite yourself. Either that, or you can just keep in mind how to that, you know, left is right and right is left. It's a little bit weird, but you can do that. So if I want to make this little spaceship go up, let's see, that means that I need to point now in the direction of up, which is 0. I click on it, and now the spaceship is pointing up. And if I click on move 10 steps, it's actually going to go up. And if I want to move down, I say minus 10 steps, and this will move in the opposite direction. Okay. So we can also move point in direction 270. I can click on that. It's going to face that direction, and I can move 10 steps into the direction in which it's facing. Okay. So just something that you need to be aware of. So even though your sprite is looking up, occasionally you just need to check here to see which direction it's actually facing, and that will tell you the forward direction that it's going to move. Okay. So I'm just going to hide this one quickly. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to go back to this one. So I'm just going to right click on it and click show. Then I've got my beetle back again, and I can press spacebar, and it's going to go back to the middle of the screen. Okay, and then one other thing that we looked at yesterday, I showed you that you can actually draw your own sprite. So I can click on new sprite and then pick this little paint editor tool, and you can draw anything you like. I showed you yesterday that even if it's something really basic, like let's say a triangle, a square, and maybe we can draw some kind of a circle here as well. Maybe you can draw the circle over here, or maybe an ellipse, some weird shape. And then the thing that we need to keep in mind is this thing needs to know exactly where is the middle of this sprite that I've just drawn. So I can define that myself. So at the moment it thinks that is the middle, so that's the point of rotation. But I can change it to any place I like. I can maybe click on the edge of this little square. So that is now the center of my image. If I go back to scripts, I'm going to hide this little beetle again. So this is now my sprite, right? So I click on the sprite and I can code it now. So we can do events. I can say when the flag is clicked, we can do, I want it to forever to turn in a circle. And we're going to say motion. We can turn by 15 degrees or 10 degrees, however much you want. So every time we make a turn of 15 degrees, we're going to go to pen, and we're going to say stamp. Right? So that will basically just print its image at that particular point. So it's going to turn, print itself on the screen, turn, print itself on the screen, turn, print itself on the screen. But this is a little bit boring, so I'm going to go to pen, and I'm going to say every time that we turn, we also change the pen color. So every time we stamp, we get a different color. So when I click this, we get some kind of rotation out of this very, very basic image. Okay, so you should play around with this. You can definitely make some really amazing stuff with this. Definitely worth checking out. But yeah, it's just literally just a square in a circle, and I showed you also yesterday, even if you go back here, and let's say we change the center, let's say the center we say now is on the edge of this ellipse over here where my mouse is pointing. I'm going to click. So that is now the center. I go back to my script. We can maybe, if we don't want the flower thing still there, I can just go to pen. I can choose, where is it now? Pen down, looks, motion, pen up, we can clear. So I just press clear, that will clear the image for me. And now when I press this little flag here, you see the rotation's a little bit different and I get a completely different image out of that. Okay, so just bear in mind that once you click this flag, this thing is actually running forever. Okay, so while this computer is on and while this thing is clicked, it's actually turning. So even though you can't see any new things happening here, it's definitely your computer is running and it's doing a lot of calculations as we're going along. So I definitely advise you to, once you have your shape, just press the little stop button here at the top just to make the whole thing stop. Otherwise your computer is just going to go crazy. Okay, so that is from yesterday. So let's do something a little bit more exciting. So I'm going to go to File, New. I'm not going to save this. I'm going to start back with this little guy. And I want to show you how you can do some simple animation. Okay, so I'm going to take this cat out here. So maybe I'll just start with that. So once you click on the cat, you'll see that at the top here, we've got costumes, and you see that it's got two costumes, right? It's got this one and it's got this one. So if you quickly click between these two, it kind of gives the illusion that this one is actually walking. Okay, so if I go to my scripts, I can say control events. I'm going to say, when I click the flag, I'm going to forever, let's do forever, and I'm going to say move 10 steps. So it's going to move 10 steps, and every time that it moves, I'm going to say on my looks, I'm going to say next costume. Okay, because at this point in time, this little sprite has got two costumes, the one that we start with, and then it also has an additional costume. You can add more costumes to this thing if you want. But what's going to happen now is when it says next costume, it's going to go to this one, then it's going to go to next costume, next costume, next costume. So it's basically it's going to cycle between these two existing costumes. Okay, so click the next costume, and if I click this, let's see what happens. So that gives the illusion that it's actually walking. So it's walking maybe a little bit fast. I'm just going to drag it over here. We can give it make it a little bit slower. So maybe rather than moving 10 steps, I'm going to say move 5 steps. Just move it back here so you can see. Click on the flag. Still a little bit fast, but you get the idea. So maybe it's still a little bit too fast for us. So what you can do is you can go to Control, and we see that we've got this little block here called wait. Right? So if we put wait in between, so every time just before we switch to costume, we wait 1 second, and then it's going to go to the next costume, and then it's going to go wait 1 second. What does the yellow light mean? What yellow light? I don't see the yellow light. So when I click on this, see it's a little bit too slow, right? So it's going to wait 1 second, change, 1 second, change, 1 second, change. So we can stop that, and maybe we can make it a little bit faster. So we can try half a second. I click on it. Still doesn't look right, right? It's a little bit too slow. So let's try 0.1. That looks a little bit better. So we can maybe make it walk faster, maybe by 10 steps. How do you add more costumes? I will get to that in a second. Okay, so over here, if I click on this little guy, I click on it, you can see that this idea that it's giving the illusion that it's walking is already working. Okay, so we can the question was, how do we add more costumes? Okay, so let's do that quickly. So I'm going to get rid of this cat and we're going to draw our own sprites. You can actually make your own characters. And then after I've shown you that, I'm going to show you how you can use stuff that you can find off the internet to make some really cool things. So this, I'm first going to delete this. So we get the idea. And I'm going to click on paint a new sprite. So rather than use an existing sprite, I'm just going to make my own. And I'm just going to draw a little stick man. So I'm just going to choose the color black here. And I showed this on the very first video. So we can draw a face. I choose a line here. It's like the body basically. And I'm going to give it some legs, maybe over here and over here. And we can maybe put in arms as well if we really want to. Okay, so there's my little sprite. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can maybe change its center. So I'll click on this little thing here to make sure that it's centered. So I'm going to put the center right on the middle of this little person. And okay, so now I want to make more costumes, right? So there are a few ways that you can do this. When you're looking at your costumes here, we can see that we have, okay, where was we go? Okay, I'll go back to that. So let me just show you again quickly. So when we're looking at your main page, you'll see that you've got this little sprite palette over here, right? And then if you want to add new ones, you can either click on this from the library, or you can choose an existing sprite, and right next to it, there's a little paintbrush. Or you can load one from your computer, or you can take a photo. So you can actually take a photo of something, and then you can make a sprite of a photo. That's actually pretty nice. But I'm going to choose here, paint a new sprite. So that's the one that I've chosen. And then once I did that, it opens up this page automatically for me. Okay, so I can see where I can draw on this little palette here, and I can draw some basic shapes like circles and pins and things like that. Okay, so you can draw your own sprite. So this I'm going to call, you can see here at the top, it's got a name. It's called Costume 1. I can call it Stickman and press enter. And now this little sprite here is called Stickman. So if I want to add more costumes, I can either click from the library, or I can draw a new one, completely new one, or I can upload, or I can use a photo. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it, and it's got some options here, and I'm going to choose duplicate. Right? So that will make an exact copy of the one that I have. So even if I switch between these two ones, we can see that clearly there's no change in my little stick man. So what I'm going to do with this one, the second one is, I'm going to go, I just want to close this quickly. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to say, maybe we can use the select tool, right? It allows me to draw a little square. So I'm going to select one of his legs, and I'm going to basically rotate it a little bit, just to give the illusion that that leg is actually now moving. So I'm going to use that leg, and I'm also going to move this leg over here. And I'm also going to rotate that a little bit. So maybe rotate it like this, and I'm going to put them back again. So I'm going to put this leg over here, and I'm going to put this leg over here. Okay, so if I switch between these two images now, okay, that went weird. Let's try this again. I'm going to switch it back here. If I switch between these two images now, we can see that it gives the illusion of walking, right? Because, you know, the legs are moving. You can also, if you want to make it a little bit more realistic, you know, you can move the arms a little bit up and down if you want to. So maybe we can do that just to make it appear that it's a little bit more animated. So we can choose the arm. So to show you again, we go on the side here, we go to select. We select the little arm. And we just do a slight rotation of the arm like that. Okay, so moving it back here. So now if I move between the two, you can see the arm is hardly moving. Maybe I should make it move a little bit more. There we go. You see now it's alternating between these two things. You can also use an eraser here. You can see that I've got a bit of stuff that's cleaned to make it a bit bigger. I can clean it up a little bit. I can make it smaller again on the right. So on the right hand side at the bottom, there's like a magnifying glass. So you can increase or you can decrease. You can actually make this thing quite detailed if you want to. But for the purposes of what I'm showing you now, we don't really need to do that. Can you change? The question is, can you change where your stage is? Yes, you can. We will look at that, but not right now. But we're definitely going to look at that. So we see now that my sprite basically allows me to give the illusion of walking. So if I go back to scripts, I'm going to choose events. You say when clicked, I'm going to say forever. And I'm going to say motion, move 10 steps. But remember, if we just move 10 steps, it's just going to stay on the same costume. So if I click this button, it's just going to slide over, right? Which is what we don't want. We want the illusion to give that he's walking. So that means that every time he moves, we also want him to change the way he looks. So I click on looks and I select next costume. So when I click this now, it gives the appearance of animation. Okay, so we can fine tune that. We can fine tune that a little bit. We can say, okay, right, maybe it's moving a little bit too fast. I can go to control. And every time after I move, switch a costume, I'm just going to wait about a split second before this happens again. So when I click it, it's going to move, change costume, wait a little bit. Then it's going to move, change costume, wait a little bit. So when I click this, you can see that gives the appearance of him walking. Okay, so at the moment it's not very interesting because it just basically walks to the edge of the screen. So if I want him to walk there and maybe walk back, what I can do is the following. I can say motion, and I say that if he reaches the edge, if on edge, bounce. So bounce basically means that he's going to rotate and then he's going to start walking in the opposite direction. But I showed you last time as well that this is going to come out a little bit weird. But I'm just going to do it in any case. It's going to turn upside down. Which is not what we want. But we can fix that. We can say on this little sprite, can you make it say something? Yes, we can. We'll make it say something now. Okay, so we can say, maybe we can say, I'm just going to change this quickly. So we can see on the sprite itself, it's got rotation style. So there's a little one that looks like a little circle. And then there's one that only shows left, right. So basically this one, the one in the middle, will allow, if I choose that one, when it reaches the edge, you see that it basically just turns around and moves to the other side. So maybe we want him to say something. So what about if he reaches the edge, right? We want him to say ouch. Okay, so we can say under looks, we can say ouch. And maybe we can try, let's see if this is going to work. I'm not even sure. Let's do control if sensing. It's going to be a little bit more complicated than that because we need to basically figure out its exact location before we can do that. But you can put this in where you can say ouch. I'm just thinking of an easy way for us to do this quickly. If answer, distance, if touching. Okay, then we can do this. We can say that if he's touching some color, then it's going to say ouch. That's one way that we can do it. So at the moment we can click on stage. So now I'm actually not on the sprite anymore. I'm going to click on the background. So now we're looking at the stage. And I'm going to click on backdrops. And this basically allows me to draw something in the background. So for example, to give you an idea, if I just do some squiggly things over here, this is now part of the background. So if this little guy moves, we can see that the background doesn't change. Okay. Right. So let's go back to the background. So not on the sprite, I click on the stage and I click on backdrops tab here at the top, and this will allow me to edit the background. So let's just take an eraser. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Maybe a quicker way would be to select all of it and just press delete. So I'm going to put in here, let's put in a purple or some kind of a pink. No, let's make it blue. So let's put a blue square on this side, a rectangle on this side, and let's also put a blue rectangle on the other side. So we're actually skipping ahead now, but I feel that this is something that you want to know, so we're going to do that. Okay, so here we go. Now I click back on the sprite, so we have to change a few things now. I want it so that not when it's on the edge it needs to bounce. I want it to, when it reaches the blue, when it touches the blue, I actually want it to turn around and then say ouch. Okay, so I'm going to say control, and then under control there's like a condition, it's called if. So what we want to know is if it actually touches the wall, I want it to turn around and say ouch. Okay, so then it's going to walk this way, and then if it touches the wall, I want it to say ouch and then turn around. So we can say if touching color, so the color here is, at the moment is wrong, right? It's only going to work if it's green, but I can click on the color and then a little hand will appear. And now I can click on the color of the wall, which is the same, which is the color that we want. So if it's touching the blue, we want it to turn around, right? Let's maybe do motion. Let's do pointing direction. Set rotation style. We're going to turn 180 degrees. Let's just see what happens if we do that. So turn 180, 180. So 180, 180. Okay. I'm going to turn around. And before we turn around, we're going to say ouch, maybe for half a second. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to put all of this stuff in here now. So just see that all of it is now part of this loop. So inside the loop, it's going to move, change costume, and then it's going to keep checking to see whether it's touching the color or not. So if I click this now, let's see what happens. It's going to say ouch, and it's going to turn around, and it's going to walk the other way. The question is, can you change the color of the person? Yes, you can. You can just go to costumes. I just chose the color black to draw this little person here. But at the bottom here, you'll see you've got a whole range of colors that you can use. So in a few videos on, you're going to draw like a type of a fighter plane that's going to fight and shoot and things. So, I mean, then we can go crazy with what we want it to look like. And obviously, the more time you're going to put into this, the better it's going to look. Some people go a little bit crazy. They zoom in like hectically, and then they color in every single pixel, right, to get the effect that they want. So how good it looks is really up to you and how much time you have. So you might think that doing games and things is actually easy, but it's not. There's a lot of things that go into it. You have the people who actually design the characters, and then you also have the people who code things. So there's actually quite a big thing in order to do this. I'm doing coding on Notepad. Good. Notepad is awesome. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to show you something else, which is maybe I think you can enjoy a little bit more. In order to do that, I'm going to have to show you first what is a GIF file. Okay, so I'm going to start a new one here. So this is an image that I got from the web. It's a GIF animation. And a GIF animation basically is essentially it's a collection of pictures. So it's a collection of pictures that's on a constant loop. So it keeps showing different images, but then it gives the illusion that it's actually walking. So you can see that this one walks a lot nicer than the one that we've just made. So I would imagine that there's more pictures of him within this sequence. So the type of file that we are looking for is something called a GIF, GIF file. Okay, so I'm going to show you where we can do, how we can do this. Okay, so I'm going to go to back to Scratch. I'm going to say File. I'm just going to save this quickly. Save it under Scratch. Let's call this lesson 3. Stickman wall. Okay, enter. So I don't lose my work, and then I'm going to go click on File, New. Okay, back where we started. First things first, I'm going to get rid of the cat. I'm going to click delete, click on the cat and click delete. And now I'm not going to choose a sprite from the library or draw one. I'm going to actually upload a sprite from a file. So I'm going to click upload. And I've already gone onto the internet and I found all of these GIF animations here. We're going to look at Goku maybe a bit later if we have time today. Maybe if not, we'll look at it tomorrow. I'm going to click on the night and click open. So that loads the entire sprite basically for you. And now we can click on the tab here, costumes. And notice that what it's done is actually it's created a copy of each image. So if I click down on each image separately, yes, there's a question. Where can you do, is this not the question? Someone has raised their hand. You can ask in the chat, it's fine. Yes, what's the question?
I can't unmute them.
That's okay. You can ask in the chat room. There seems there's a problem with the muting, but once we get it sorted, you can ask. Otherwise, I suggest that you ask your question in the chat, and I'll get back to you. The question is here also: where can you do coding? Depends what kind of coding you're interested in. I mean, if you want to do text-based coding, there's lots of platforms that you can use. For this purposes, we're doing visual-based programming. Essentially, you can do it either on Scratch or InBlock or Blocky, whatever your favorite visual one would be. Anyway, going back to this. So this GIF image that I found on the internet, it actually breaks it up for you automatically. So if I click down on each picture, we see that it gives the illusion of walking, right? So if I want to show this on screen, I can go Events, and I'm going to say Control Forever. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to show the next costume. So if I click on it, we can see that it's actually showing the next costume. It's basically what is happening. You can see here, it's running down all of these pictures, which gives the illusion of walking, right? Because that's just how film works. It's just a series of pictures that we take, and then we put them together, and then it looks as though it's moving. But in reality, it's just a lot of pictures that are put together. Okay, but anyway, I want to basically steal this little character now. I found him on the internet and I want to make him mine. So we can now, in order to do that, I need to get rid of all of these things here in the background. The question is, can you use coding on your phone or tablet or any computer? Good question. You can use a phone or tablet as well. The other program is called InBlock. If you want to check how to get that, you can just check out the first video that I made, I think 2 days ago. I explained basically one of the visual-based languages they're called InBlock. I checked it on my phone as well. It works. So yeah, definitely that's the way to go if you don't have a computer. Okay, back to this. So what I want to do is I want this little guy, basically, I want to essentially steal this picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this little bucket here. And this little bucket here will allow me to fill it with color. But I don't want to fill it with color. I want to take away color. Go down to, here you can see where my mouse is pointing. There's like a little red diagonal line there. It means, this line means no color. So when I now click on just anywhere on the screen, so if I click on this dark gray, that will take the dark gray away. Then I will click on the bottom dark gray, that will take the bottom dark gray away. And then I basically need to click on all the color, the things that I don't want. So it's going to be this line, this one, this one. And you can, I don't know if you can see, but in his arm here in the middle, there's also a bit of gray that I don't want. So I'm going to click there as well. So now I've cleaned up this little image over here. What costumes do you do at coding, or do you have to do your own costumes? It's up to you. I mean, you can use existing costumes if you want to, or you can make your own. What I'm showing you now basically is I've taken a GIF image off the internet, and I'm going to modify this particular image now so that I can use it for myself. This is obviously the easiest way to do it. But I mean, if you have a lot of time, you can draw your own things and you can make it pretty amazing. I don't have that amount of time available, but if I did, I would definitely do it. So I'm just going to go through this quickly now. So I'm just going to click on all the things that I don't want. So I'm just going to clean up this picture basically. And this is a bit time consuming because you have to do each and every single one of these images. Okay, if you make a mistake, not a problem. At the top here, you see that there's a little undo button here that you can press and you can just fix your mistake. So if you accidentally delete part of the character or something that you didn't want to go away, that's how you would go back. Okay, so over here we see some gray, and then I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger for you. You can see there's also a bit of gray here that I don't want, and there as well. And then by his foot, essentially, I'm going to take that shadow away as well. So I'm going to click here, click over here, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this little gray, and that gray. So how it works is it will delete all the things that are the same color. So if I click on this color, it will delete everything that is that color and connect it to that line. So if I click there, click here, click there. So I'm just cleaning up this image quickly. This is how you would do it. See, it's very time consuming. Go down, almost finished. But it's going to be awesome. It's definitely going to be worth it. You'll see. So I just clean up all of this. Nearly there. Okay, last one. Okay, we're done. So that was a bit time consuming, but I've basically now cleaned up my image completely. So if I go back to my scripts now, and I click this little button, we can see now that I don't have that annoying background anymore. I just have this little sprite now that I've just created. Yes, I know. See, there's a problem with one of the shields. Thank you very much. It doesn't bother me that much, but if it bothers you, we can fix it. This one. Let's see this one as well. This one. If I missed a few more. This one maybe. This one is debatable. Okay, you get the idea, right? I think that's okay. I'm not too worried about the rest because we won't be able to see that much anyway. So I click on that. Yes, that looks better. The shield looks nice and clean now. Okay, I think that's pretty cool. So now, let's see how we are for time. So what I would like to do now is I want to be able to control this little guy. So I'm going to maybe say the first thing I want to do is maybe we can move over here. And what I would like to do is that when I press right arrow, it's going to move to the right. And when I press left arrow, it's going to move to the left. So for that, I'm going to say, I'm going to click here. I'm going to say when events, I'm going to choose when the left arrow is pressed. Then I wanted to, let's say move. First, it's going to point in direction. Let's do right arrow first. It's going to point in direction 90. Remember that 90 is showing to the right. And then I wanted to move maybe 10 steps. Okay, and I showed you this yesterday, I think, as well. I'm just going to go over this quickly. I'm going to duplicate this, right click on it, click down, and then I'm going to say on the left arrow is pressed, I'm going to face in the opposite direction, which is 270. And remember that because this thing's rotation, if you click on information, it's currently set to the circular rotation. That means if I actually press the left button, it's not going to face left, it's actually going to go upside down. You see? So I need to first fix that to change the rotation style to left and right rather than circle. So now if I press left and I press right, you can see that it's moving left and right. Notice that if I switch between left and right, it kind of jumps, right? Do you know why this is happening? No. Okay, let's see. I'll remember it's basically rotating around its center. So that means that my center of my character is off. So I need to click back onto costumes. And I'm going to say center. And I'm going to see the center is at the moment it's in front of the character, which is not where I want it to be. I want the center to be in the middle of the character. So I'm maybe going to choose here by his sword. I think that would be a good center. So I think there. Okay, so if I now click back on scripts, if I press left and right, we see now that it's rotating around the center of himself rather than the center in front of him. Okay. Okay, so now we've done that. So now also, if every time I wanted to move, maybe I wanted to change costumes as well. So for this, it's not really going to be the best way to do it because left arrow, right arrow is pressed. It's like a very amateur way of doing things. So I'm going to show you how we can make this look really cool. So we're going to go on events again. I'm going to say when the flag is clicked, and I want this to always happen. I want to forever have this happen. So let's do a proper walking script. So I'm going to say if, remember we have that condition called if. So if something is true, then whatever is happening will happen here. So if it's not true, then it won't happen. So if basically checks to see if this thing in here is going to be true, then this thing in here will happen. Otherwise, nothing happens. So I'm going to say if, I'm going to say sensing. I'm going to choose here if, I'm going to make it if the right arrow is pressed. Right arrow is pressed. Right. Then if that is true, I'm going to say it must point in direction 90 and move 10 steps. Right. And I'm going to say if it is pointing in the left direction, so I'm going to say I'm going to duplicate this as well. I think we have a question. What is the best app to use if you want your game to be like other games out there that are trending? I don't know. It's debatable. I think it depends on what you want to do. I think the one that is for 3D type games, and I saw the question come up earlier as well. C# is probably the most commonly used language at the moment because it ties in quite well with something called Unity. So Unity essentially is an application where you can build 3D models and things like that, and you can program those things. It's actually pretty complex. I think if you guys if you're interested in doing that, that's cool. But I would definitely suggest that you first know how to use loops, if statements, get the basics down first. It doesn't matter where you learn the basics. I think for this particular thing that we're looking at now, which is this Visual Basic platform, you will learn all the basics that you need. So when you actually go over to something like C#, if you want to do games, another popular one is Python. Python also has a cool platform. And maybe in the future at some point, I can show you how to do Python games. Then that will be it will be easy for you to go into those languages if you really know how to do these types of things. Okay, so I'm going to basically just put this stuff in here. So I'm going to say if the right arrow is pressed, we're going to point in the 90 direction and move 10 steps. And we're going to say if the left arrow is pressed, I'm going to point in direction 270 and move 10 steps. And we can say every time that I move, well, obviously we want to make it sure that this thing also is able to change costumes. Okay, so maybe we can say the looks is going to be next costume over here, and we're going to put in a next costume over here. So if I press the right arrow, then it's going to point in direction 90. It's going to move next costume and move 10 steps. I don't think this is going to work so lekker. Maybe I'm going to take this one out for a second and I'll come back to this because I think we're going to need more time to do this properly. So when I click this button, we can see that now this little guy is sliding to the left and he is sliding to the right. Okay. So we're going to have to figure out a way that we can change his costume while he's doing that. I think we're going to run out of time for today, so I'm going to leave it open for more questions. And then tomorrow, I will show you actually how if you take this character, it's going to give the illusion of walking, and also want to maybe put in something where we can jump. So I see that I've got about 3 minutes left, but I don't think it's going to be enough time for me to finish that. Do you guys have any other questions before I finish up today? So Jonathan says here, I finished making my first indie game yesterday. That's awesome, Jonathan. I think gaming and writing computer games is definitely the way to go because you learn so much from other people, especially, and how to make things better. What's the best app? I think I've answered that question already. Thank you, sir. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ashton. I really appreciate that. It was really nice. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think time caught us a little bit today, but again, I'm just going to see if I have it here or not. Maybe I think I saved it yesterday. I'm just going to give you a preview of what we're going to do tomorrow, because I think once you see that, maybe that will get you guys a little bit excited. So here I've got this is no, not this one. This is yesterday's one. I'm going to show you this, what we're going to do tomorrow. Desktop, Scratch. I think you're going to like this one. So this one I did yesterday. So I found a GIF of Goku, and I can press the flag, and it gives the illusion of throwing a fireball. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that tomorrow as well. But I think it's important that we first finish tonight. Get tonight to walk, get tonight to be able to jump, and then later we can change the backgrounds. We can get the night to go into new locations and things, and maybe, I don't know, at some point later on, we can maybe look at it fighting zombies or things like that. I think that would be awesome. All right, thank you very much, guys. You were awesome. See you tomorrow.